morning. I would like to call today's August 16th Board of Directors meeting for the Sports Authority to order. We appreciate the Nashville Sounds for hosting us today. We appreciate the Nashville Sounds for hosting us today. It's always nice to be back at First Tennessee Park, and we know the team is having a very successful season, and we look forward to hearing more about that at today's presentation by the Sounds. The appeals process for any action of this board can be found at the top of today's agenda. First up, we have consideration of our July 10th informational session meeting minutes. Those were sent out to the board on Friday. Is there any questions, discussions? Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the 10th?
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We also have the meeting minutes from July 19th from the full board meeting. At this time, we would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. And moving along, we have our Executive Director's report from Monica Faulknesson. Monica.
Hey, good morning. Thank you all for being here today. We have a relatively short agenda, which several of you have already told me you're excited about. Following my report, the authority will consider a resolution approving an intent to award for RFQ 1035670 for construction management services. Following that item, the chair will entertain any facility questions from the board and will receive the First Tennessee Park report. And that's it. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay. Well, I do have a few quick updates for you with regards to the proposed soccer stadium. This morning, the Fair Board met and they approved the ground lease with Nashville Soccer Holdings for the mixed-use development. That was something that Law Director John Cooper mentioned as we have gone through our processes over the last month. Next week is a big week. The Metro Council will take up the demolition of the existing fairgrounds buildings, the ticket tax, which requires amending the Metro Code, and the fairground lease that the fairgrounds took up today. These are all on second reading. They will go before, there'll be some committee meetings on Monday, some more committee meetings on Tuesday, and then the council meeting at 6:30 on Tuesday. The final vote, as we've said a couple of times, is scheduled for September the 4th, and of course I'll keep you informed as we walk through this process over the next few weeks. Also, Mayor Briley has appointed John Glassmeyer to fill Lisa Howe's term, which expires in 2022. I've not met John, but we're going to meet on Monday, and he will be up for confirmation on Tuesday as well. So we'll also send you some information and a bio, and look forward to getting to meet him and know him too. Also, I think most of you know that Council Lady Karen Johnson is our newly elected Register of Deeds. She'll be sworn in on August the 23rd, and I mentioned that because the Register of Deeds is one of our tenants at Bridgestone Arena. So they're working with General Services to get her space ready. They're looking at paint and some new signage. At this point, there are no plans for any material changes that would require the approval of the Sports Authority, but I just wanted to let you know that the Register of Deeds space will be getting a facelift as they prepare for their new Register of Deeds. Any questions about anything? Okay, if not, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Monica. And that brings us to the consideration of the resolution regarding the intent to award for the RFQ for construction manager for Major League Soccer Stadium. And I believe Metro Purchasing has Michelle Lane is with us today to give us a update on where we are with the procurement process. Thank you, Michelle, for coming.
Thank you so much. If I may, I'd like to also invite Ms. Terry Troop, who is a senior procurement officer in procurement, who managed the solicitation. If you all have any specific questions about the details of the process beyond the overview that I'm going to give you, Terry will be able to kind of get into some of the guts of that. But as it relates to the solicitation itself, we published the solicitation soliciting offers in June, on June 13th. We had a close date of July 17th for the solicitation. We received 4 offers. The initial evaluation related to the offers that were received was conducted on August 6th. Pursuant to that evaluation by the evaluation committee, we contacted all of those offers whose offers were considered what the procurement regulations define as potentially acceptable. We also notified those offers, or the offerer, whose offer was considered not acceptable. So 3 of the offers of the 4 that submitted were invited to engage in discussions/interviews with the city, and those occurred on the 8th of August. Pursuant to those discussions, those interviews, the evaluation committee reconvened, reconsidered all of the information that was received, and then an intent to award was issued by my office on August 15th. Now, what you should know is that since that issuance of a notice of intent, we have received a timely filed protest of the intent to award. The offers that submitted were, let me give you the exact names here. The Barton Mallow Company, Mortensen Messer Construction as a team, PCL Construction and DF Chase as a team, and Skanska AECom Hunt as a team. Barton Mallow, Mortensen Messer Construction, and Skanska AECom Hunt were the 3 firms that were invited in for discussions/interviews. PCL Construction/DF Chase, the offer that they submitted was determined to be unacceptable, and pursuant to the procurement regulations, it was not considered that their offer would potentially become acceptable, which is why they were not invited in for an interview. We have since received a protest from Barton Mallow. That protest is, again, timely received. There is the potential consideration based upon email communication from another vendor to potentially file a protest as well. So for us, based upon the actual formal protest that we've received, our next steps would be to schedule a protest hearing, which I believe it is in Metro's best interest to conduct that protest hearing as expediently as possible. We would then, have an opportunity for the protester to lay out the basis of their protest, the items that they feel were conducted inconsistent with the procurement code and regulations through the solicitation process. I would hear that information and then issue immediately a decision related to that protest filing. Now, you should note also that pursuant to that protest decision, the protester then has 7 calendar days to file an appeal, and that appeal would go to our Procurement Appeals Board, who would hear that protest and determine whether or not the actions of the Chief Procurement Officer, Purchasing Agent was consistent with the Procurement Code and the regulations. So that's where we are. We have a letter of intent. It has been protested. My understanding, and I know that Margaret will put me on track if I step off the track, is that you all are able to act based upon that intent that we have made to award. However, we do have to exhaust that protest process. It is an administrative remedy that is offered to prospective and actual bidders in the process, and so it is not until which time that process has been fully exhausted and completed that we will be able to move forward with the actual negotiations of the contract.
Thank you for bringing us up to speed. I know we received this information yesterday. These are difficult timelines and schedules, and we appreciate your office with your commitment to this, and we certainly want the process to be fair and go through the proper protocols. Margaret, Darby, do you have anything from?
I don't have anything to add, except that I agree with the way Michelle put it, that the intent to award, your approval of that intent to award can move forward today, of course, acknowledging that if a protest is successful or whatever the outcome of the protest may be, may affect that intent to award in the future. And then we come back before the board at that point.
I'm just curious, the protester, can you give us any insight as to what grounds are being protested?
I don't want to go into too much detail, because I don't want us to get to a point of kind of attempting to resolve the protest here. It was a timely received protest that had a basis in cost.
Well, do you all have a listing, or are there a number of different items within the procurement process where one would have the ability to protest? Like, is there a broader guideline?
Yeah. So the procurement code is actually very broad and somewhat vague, actually, as to a basis for protest. The way that the code reads is that any prospective or actual bidder who has been aggrieved may protest. So, we receive protests that really run the gambit. We don't think that the vendor who won can actually perform, or you evaluated this element of the evaluation criteria incorrectly. So we have protests that, in all honesty, are valid, and ones that are really just what I define as kind of sour grapes protests, meaning there's not really anything that's been done incorrectly within the procurement process. So there's not a finite listing of the kinds of items that would be potentially protestable, if I've created a new word. Daniel Webster may be turning over, but a bidder or prospective bidder, which I think is a fair distinction to make, because somebody who's not actually even submitted an offer, but who is a prospective bidder, which kind of defines the point in the process that protests can occur, but could submit a protest on a variety of different issues, and we would be required to provide them an opportunity to have that protest heard.
In the materials that were provided to us, it appears that there would have been a 10-day wait period for contract negotiations to begin, assuming we approve this intent or approve the motions that's before us today. What impact will this have on that timeline?
So that 10-day period, pardon me, is 10 days from the notice of intent to award. So the rule that we typically have in place is that 10 days from the point that the letter bearing my signature is issued, we will wait 10 days to either issue a purchase order or to enter into a contract. So in this case, and that is to allow for any potential protests that might arise. We want to give folks access to the materials, because of course once the award is made, all of that information becomes open for public inspection. So that 10-day period really is to allow for this process to exhaust. So we are now entering into that 10-day period.
So there'll be an overlap between the protest and the 10-day period, and you don't believe that if the protest is denied, there won't be a delay in the
right. That time frame, for lack of a better term, is concurrent with this process, because it is to allow for such a process as this, such a, for someone to protest. So we don't want to award a contract, which really is the completion of a process, knowing that we still have a period of time during which, a proposer could actually protest. So as soon as I received the protest letter at 12:56 a.m., so they were pretty quick about submitting the protests.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Yes.
So I have some questions about the process again and the timing. So there is one protest. You have reason to believe there might be two protests. And then you have, after you get the protest, there's 7 days for your committee to review the protest.
So the way that the process works is, once the protest is received, my office, I am responsible for then communicating with the protester to set up a protest hearing in which that protester will be able to come in and define the elements of their protest or basis of their protest. During that hearing, any other interested parties, affected parties, typically other offerers, will also have an opportunity to speak. We do clearly define that process to ensure that it is orderly and that we're only receiving information that is beneficial to a decision. Once the protest hearing is completed, all parties have, had an opportunity to speak. I've considered the information. A written determination or a written decision is to be issued according to the regulations, no specific number of days, but it is immediately. So very shortly thereafter, it would be my intention to issue a written decision based upon the information that I've heard.
Okay,
now,
let me-
7 days from that date.
Okay, let me stop you just right there, because I'm just trying to get a sense of how long this is going to take. So if you have the protest now, and then you set up a hearing, generally, how long does that take you to do that, to get the parties together?
It is, very honestly, it is very typically dependent upon schedules. What I hope is that we'll be able to have a hearing no later than week after next. If we could have a hearing by Friday of next week, that would be awesome, but it is really contingent upon the availability of the protesting party.
So then, after that 8 days, say, then you will issue something immediately.
In
so
writing.
that will be
Probably within 2 business
2
days.
Okay, and then after that, either the parties can be satisfied or they can appeal.
And they have 7 days to do that.
Okay, so you wait the 7 days to know if you have any further appeal. And then if there is an appeal, then there is a body that gets together.
So the procurement code establishes a procurement appeals board. That procurement appeals board would then hear the appeal of the appealing party whose protest has been denied, and they would then make a determination whether or not the protest review process was conducted appropriately.
And so that takes a week or two to get people together for that?
I mean, again, really dependent upon schedules. I do firmly believe that there's an interest, that it's really in Metro's best interest to get this exhausted as quickly as possible.
And then after that process is completed, assuming it even happens, then there are 10 days to do the contract, or just negotiations?
Negotiations would begin thereafter, and the protesting party, depending upon the outcome of that appeal, would have an option to go to Chancery Court.
Right. Okay. I have some more questions, but it's not about the process. Are you ready for that?
Are there any other questions on the process? Yeah.
Should we act on this now, or should we defer it until after all this?
The board can act on the intent to award at this time. The 10-day period is triggered by the notification of that intent to award. So you are not actually making the award until after this process happens. Then the contract negotiations will start.
May I?
Yes, please.
And just as a point of clarification, the procurement regulations define an award as the presentation of a contract or the issuance of a purchase order. So the award process is actually complete at the time that we complete those contract negotiations and present to the successful proposer a contract for signature.
So there's a stay pending appeal, a stay of
7
proceedings.
days.
And then if the appeal is decided, he can go to, the protesting party can go to Chancery Court on petition for writ of certiorari.
I'm not an attorney, but I'm gonna yield to the attorneys on that.
Once they exhaust the administrative remedies, then yes, there would be an appeal process.
Would there
to
be a bond
Chancery.
required?
I do not know the answer to that question. I'm not sure what the bond would protect.
So I don't know if this is going to be to you or Ms. Troop. So this is about what we received yesterday about the evaluation of the parties. And it's very close, the scoring, as you know. So I just have a few questions about the scoring. But first, who is on the evaluation committee that's not on this document? Who participated?
So the evaluation committee members are typically folks who have an interest in the response. So we had certainly representative from the Sports Authority. We had some representatives of Major League Soccer as well as their, I don't know, Icon is their representative. So there were how many evaluation committee members?
3 scorers and 4 resources.
We had 3 voting members and 4 resource members.
Okay, who are the voting members on the evaluation committee? Who were they?
They were Monica with the Sports Authority.
Okay, good.
And Laura with the Fair, and Mary Cavera.
Okay. Okay, and did they score each of these criterias, the qualifications, management, diversity, all 3 of these people scored for all 3 categories?
The qualifications and experience in the management and work plan are scored by them. The business assistance office within procurement scores the diversity plan, and I score the cost because it's a straight calculation.
So tell me about the cost, because I see that the successful bidder is 2.3 million more in cost than the next highest scorer.
Right. The cost is made up of various items, including various services, their construction management project costs, their staff costs, along with the job site facilities. There was a spreadsheet that they filled out, along with their percentage markup on top of what is thought to be an estimate of the hard cost projected. And so that's all just for evaluation purposes. So, and the percentages are pretty much locked in, and we can go downward. We're not going to seek to go upward in those.
So you just put in these cost figures, assuming you're comfortable with how they have allocated their costs, and then there is a mathematical way to determine the score. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they actually enter those numbers. So that's part of their response. They actually enter those numbers into the spreadsheet as part of their submission.
Okay. So
the calculation that you see on the sheet you got is entered by me.
Okay.
Coming from their information.
I see. So this is just a question, because I don't know what I'm talking about, so just bear with me. So I look at the diversity sheet, and that's from a separate office than the folks on the committee, right? And I see one vendor is scored 2.5 less than the other vendors. And the rationale is efforts to ensure prompt payment lack details. And then when I look at the overall scores, I see that 2.5 is a huge difference. You see, and so I'm looking at cost, and I'm looking at things that are, I don't know how important they are, because you all have the whole gambit. So I have a lot of confidence in what you're doing, don't get me wrong, but it seems like a large number for prompt payment, and I don't know what that means. You see what I'm saying? Like and I don't know if that vendor is asked to give more information, or, and I don't know. I have no relationship, obviously, to any of these vendors. I'm just seeing a really tight score here, and it makes me wonder about how that score happened for that amount, 2.5, when the cost scores are just, the difference is very minimal, when you're scoring people like 29.15, 28.75, that's just 0.3, whereas this other is 2.5. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to understand how this all works when these scores are so tight, how you all look at this and are comfortable with this recommendation. See, that's what, because I'm just being asked to look at these 4 pages.
Well, I'll first note that the administration expressed a specific interest in ensuring that we were promoting diversity on this project.
Well, and certainly the Sports Authority has a huge, you can look at all of our meetings. We are very interested in diversity. But the score seems to be about prompt payment. It doesn't seem to be about contractors so.
What I think you might also have, do they have this page?
Yes, they do.
As a third page to the award information is the specific information that the Business Assistance Office looks at. Now, in the solicitation itself, there is, for lack of a better term, a rubric that is provided to all of the potential proposers, where we tell them what a good diversity plan consists of. And so we ask them to talk about their express commitment, to give us information about their participation on past projects. We ask them to define any strategic approaches that they will take to maximizing participation. We ask them to talk about their monitoring and their reporting processes. We also ask them to talk about their methodologies for ensuring prompt payment. And that is an important element of this process, especially on a project this large, where you have subcontractors, second-tier, third-tier subcontractors, many of whom are smaller businesses who do not have the financial buoyancy to float the prime and wait 60 days to get paid. So what we ask is for the prime contractor to talk to us about the strategies that they'll use to ensure that there's prompt payment of those subcontractors, because we don't want any of those subcontractors to go out of business as a result of working on this Metro project. We want them to be able to see this as an opportunity to grow their businesses as well. So for the prompt payment element of it, you can see how many points were allocated to prompt pay. So if there was no defined proactive strategies listed that indicate for us how that prime contractor would work to ensure that their subcontractors were paid in a timely manner, then the points were allocated accordingly. And the matrix is here before you that kind of details how those point allocations were made. So based upon this, I would assume that, the proposer who received 0 points did not have a meaningful response to that element of the diversity plan. What we should take from this is that the offers, I want people to really walk away knowing that we had really good offers on this project. And I think the city should be pleased that we had really good construction management companies that came to the table and offered their services to the city. When it came down to it, we see that the evaluation on a number of the elements was really close. On the diversity plan piece of it, I'm personally pleased by the fact that most of these offers came with what I call their A game in all elements of this, including diversity. There was one element for one of those proposers that was lacking, and their scores reflected that.
Michelle, how often does your office have protests?
Procurement? I have been in the procurement role now a little over a year, and I have had 4 protests. None of those have gone to appeal. If there's some wood around here, I want to knock on it. But none of those have gone to the appeal process. I will tell you, having been involved in the procurement processes for Metro government for 17 years now, we did have a period of time, especially in the height of the recession, when we were receiving protests, I feel multiple protests a week. So I'm pleased that, we're attempting to manage processes, working to ensure fairness and equity in the process, and that I hope that is evident in the fact that we've not received a ton of protests, but of course that process is always there and available to any vendor, any bidder or prospective bidder, and we're going to hear their protest and make a decision accordingly.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Michelle or her team?
Who decides the protest?
The initial protest is heard by me.
You.
I will hear that protest, the basis of protest. I will consider the procurement activity that has occurred and its appropriateness given the procurement code and the procurement regulations. If I believe that the process has been exhausted consistent with the code and the regulations and there are not any flaws in that process, then I will make a determination, a written determination accordingly, either in favor of or in disfavor of the protest basis. If it's in favor, then, of course, we have to bring it back. We've got to come back and we've got to start again. But if it's in disfavor of the protest, then it is, the protesting party has the right to appeal it.
And who decides the appeal?
There is a protest appeals board that would decide that appeal. It is consistent of 4 members.
Who are they?
They are department heads. It is chaired by the Director of Finance.
Is that a written appeal then? Or do they come back and present again?
They have to file a written letter within 7 days. It must be delivered to the Director of Finance and to myself, in which they specify that they are appealing consistent with the appeals procedures outlined in the procurement code. That appeals activity, that hearing, is a formal hearing.
Madam Chair, I'd like to hear from the board about their thoughts about what Rip was suggesting. I hadn't decided anything. It was a question about us waiting to make an award until this protest procedure has, proceeded, because we meet every month. We meet quickly sometimes. We've obviously, as a sports authority, are very supportive.
My thought about this was that the reason I asked the question about should we go ahead and approve this is that evidently the timeline is probably going to be at least 3 or 4 weeks. And why not just defer this until after all the appeal and everything is gone and bring it back to the board next month? Rather than approve it and then the appeal holds up, then you got to go back and redo it anyway.
Can I ask, Mark, if we approve it today, I mean, if it goes through a process and it's, continues, our action is still not going to impact the timing of
That's
the
correct.
appeals
If you, what you're doing today is approving the intent to award. If you take that action, you're approving the intent to award. This process will move forward, this protest process will move forward, and depending on the outcome of it, either the procurement could start over again if it's a negative outcome, or if they determine that the protest shouldn't move forward and or deny the protest, and at that point the contract would be we would start the negotiation process on the contract, and the contract doesn't actually get awarded until we complete that negotiation process. So the letter of intent is to start this whole process, and that's what you're approving.
And as a point of clarification, we would wait 7 days to allow for appeal.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We would afford all of the appeal opportunities to a protester that are
So
available.
even if we act today on the intent to award, it's still subject to the negotiations
Absolutely.
down the line. So
As per usual.
Is it necessary for the sports authority to act in order to trigger the timeline, the protest process?
A protest can start at any time. It doesn't have to start after the intent to award is issued or approved. What the Sports Authority is doing here, because you're utilizing the services of the procurement office, purchasing agent, you are simply approving the process so far, and you're approving the intent to award this particular contract.
Margaret, what if the protest is found to be accurate? Does that mean that the procurement has to start over again?
Well, according to the, and I am not an expert on our procurement regulations, but according to the code, if there is, the remedies are that the solicitation could be canceled or it could be revised to comply with the law if it's found to be out of compliance with the law. And I'm assuming that would be the recommendation from you, or if it goes to the Procurement Appeals Board, that would
Correct.
be one of those recommendations.
So it really can be, let me make sure I understand this. It really, in order for the protest to be upheld, in other words, it was a accurate, valid protest, you have to find that there was something legally incorrect done in the scoring process, right?
Yes.
Not something
Yes.
discretionary or, that I
Correct.
would have,
There's a lot of
someone else would have
discretionary
scored differently. So the discretion on the scoring is not at play. It's whether there is a legal
Correct. If
issue
there's some sort
with
of
the scoring.
problem with the solicitation process or, yes, some sort of legal issue.
What's the downside to waiting? Trying to figure out what,
In terms of moving forward
in terms of moving forward and waiting for the process to play out, what's the downside?
Well, I mean, we have to wait for the process to play out, right? But in terms of the project and moving forward, at this point, based on my conversations with Mary Cavara, I don't think there is, I don't think it's urgent in terms of the work being done. I think we're still in the design, conceptual phase, and yes, it's important to have some input from the construction manager. I think we all realize the benefit of that, but it's not going to adversely affect what needs to happen as far as I'm aware.
So the other side of that question, what are the benefits of us moving forward today? Are there benefits?
Yeah, I think it green lights the opportunity, I guess, to start contract negotiations. So as we
Prior
work
to the next
through,
meeting.
I'm sorry, say it
Prior to
again.
the next meeting.
Prior to the next meeting.
Yes.
Right, so we would be able to move forward. It would not have to return to the board, and we could start negotiations.
Potentially, we would be adding the time for the appeal and the time that it's, what's the word?
The protest and appeal.
Yeah, okay, the protest and the appeal. That time frame will add to what we have now, so then they can actually start in 2 weeks or whatever that time frame is, then they can actually start, making specifics on,
If I, may I?
Yes, please.
If I could say, my understanding of the process, and I know Margaret, again, will put me back on track if I step off, is that if the intent to award isn't approved today, or maybe I should say, until the intent to award is approved, we would not be able to then engage in contract negotiations. So once the appeal or the protest process is completed, and if there is an appeal to that decision, depending upon what the decision is, we would then, if the appeal decision is that everything is done correctly and is consistent with the procurement code, we would then have the authority, based upon your action, if you approved it today, to go ahead and began contract negotiations. However, if the intent to award was not approved, we would have to, even in the, given that time frame that's been exhausted with protest and appeal, have to await the action of this board to begin that contract negotiation process.
thank you.
How long does the contract negotiation process take?
It varies. I mean, some contracts we're negotiating for an hour. Some contracts we're negotiating for 3 weeks. So it really just depends. We do have the great benefit here of having one of our expert construction attorneys having developed the contract, especially for this solicitation, to ensure that we have all the elements that would be specific to a project of this magnitude, and using the construction manager model of procurement. He's reviewed it, so we think that, we're probably going to be able to facilitate a pretty simple, hopefully, negotiation. There have been a couple of exceptions that have been taken that we can work through, but we began this process in anticipation of the potential for there to be a number of negotiating elements, so we tried to develop a contract that would contemplate those on the front end.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a move that motion that we defer for one meeting.
We have a motion for deferral. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I would like to say, as far as timelines and schedules, this is very ambitious. We know that. And I certainly have full faith in the procurement office doing their due diligence. And my sense is if there is a need for us to revisit this at our next meeting, we can do so still by acting today. So I will not be supporting the deferral today, but we have a motion and a second. So all of those in favor of the deferral, say aye.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes. Motion carries, and we will defer this action until next month. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to facility questions. Since our last meeting, the Titans organization hosted a very successful concert last weekend, I believe, for Kenny Chesney fans, and it was record-breaking, and more than 55,000 attendees were present, and they shared this pretty neat photo of the record-setting numbers of fans, and we wanted to share that with the board. This is the portion of the agenda for any questions of our facility partners, and our report is included in one of the tabs, so if you have any questions of Nissan or the Predators, the Titans, we could entertain those at this time. Yes, Monica.
I would like, I've talked to Bob Flynn and Janine Kaufman as we talk through some of the things going on at the facilities. I would like for them to come and speak about the Inside Out initiative, which you may or may not have heard about. But I think the Titans are showing some great leadership in this area that's going to benefit Nashville and the state as we look at youth sports. So,
thanks, Monica. Board, Bob Flynn, Vice President of the Nissan Stadium and with the Titans. What Monica, well, first of all, the show was awesome. I'm not sure if anybody made it. It was a heck of a show. Record crowd. It's a lot of work, but this, we're turning it right now for Saturday's preseason game, and then next week, I bet you Taylor Swift has as many people in there, so it's going to be busy. But what Monica's talking about, the National Football League Foundation has partnered with a group called Inside Out, and it's about changing the way you look at sports. I mean, we all know it's great to win, and we all try to win at everything, but we know that winning is not always the end of what sports is really supposed to be about. It's about developing kids. It's about developing moral character. So there's a group called Inside Out. It's partnered with the Nashville Football Foundation, and they've gone to 4 or 5 states, I think, already. They're partnering with the state of Tennessee, which is with us, and the TSSAA, and some other like high school coaches and stuff like that to come together and try to put a different focus on what it's all about. Hey, we want to win, but you know what? I think in this article, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Bellevue Sports Gazette, 3% go from high school to colleges, and like 1% go from colleges to the pros. So there's all these other people out there. I mean, every sports team in here knows that how tough it is to get to the top. So there's a lot of people not reaching it there, but we want to teach them more about, hey, it's better to get an education. Let's do the right thing, and that's what this partnership is about. So at the end of this month, we've got the TSSAA coming in, and these other groups coming in to have a meeting about and start setting parameters about it. So it's just another way to get involved with the community and say, we want to win, but there's a lot more important things down the road in life than just winning on the field. So that's what the program's about, and we've got a meeting, like I said, with TSSAA in, I think it's 2 weeks or something like that.
Well, there's only, I think, a small number of clubs that have really committed to this, and I think it's great that you all are doing it. And we clearly, I think, in this group, are a pretty competitive bunch. We appreciate and get the value of athletics, but I think what we're seeing culturally is a shift to win at all cost, which is not helping our youth. So I think that's great. I commend you on that. I do want to plug the Bellevue Sports Weekly. If you
There you go.
if you
don't
are
get it.
not familiar with it, it's a fantastic publication that looks at a lot of things going on locally with our local teams that don't always get the coverage that we might see in the Tennessean and some other publications. And they've been a great partner of the Sports Council and especially our Women in Sports Committee. And so go check that out, please.
But we can give you updates in the next board meeting if you want on our progress. But we are excited about being a partner with it. So,
And Taylor Swift is next week.
as a week from Saturday.
So if we have another record-breaking concert attendees, you'll let us know.
I will let you know. But yeah, so
We'll
we
have
go.
hopefully another photo.
I don't know. That was
That's
from their
pretty neat,
camp.
yeah.
They went up on the light rakers and took what's called fisheye. It's pretty, it's very cool, as y'all can tell. It's a neat video. I mean, a shot of the stadium, and also the downtown in the background. But yeah, it was a great show. I mean, it was a long day. It was a 6-hour concert. 6-hour concert. So it was a long day, but. On to the next event, which is Saturday night versus Tampa Bay Bucks. So, any questions?
Thank you.
All yours. Thanks, man.
Okay. Thank you for that portion of facility questions for our agenda. Moving on to the Nashville Sounds. Adam Noose and Doug Scopel will give us the First Tennessee Park report. Welcome back, Adam.
Well, good morning. Adam Noose, General Manager, here with the Nashville Sounds. On behalf of our owner, our entire staff, welcome to beautiful First Tennessee Park. Always proud of this place and love hosting you guys. I was really hoping today that we had announced that we had broke a record for longest winning streak today. Came up a little short yesterday. We lost 3-1, but had 15-game winning streak. And I'm not big on ties, so we tied the record, but somewhere in the middle, we did win another game. We extended a game from back in May in Colorado Springs and won that game. So we actually won 16 games during that stretch. So I will call it the tiebreaker, but the record books will continue to show it was 15 games in a row. Always great support out of this room. I got a nice note, Doug and I got a nice note from Bob Flynn with the Titans and saying congratulations on the 15 wins and congrats on the streak, best of luck. And so I decided I was going to print it off and keep it. And Bob, I'm going to send you hopefully that same note when you win 15 games in a row going for the Super Bowl on game 16. So no pressure, though, no pressure. Set the bar high for him. But also with support, we announced last week that we were the first team of 160 teams to reach 500,000 fans. So our goal coming into the year was to lead minor league baseball in attendance. Right now we're there. We have 8 games left. Hopefully we can finish out strong and get to that point. So, and then Court Jeske, a good friend of ours with the Nashville Soccer Club. Great year partnering with them for the first time. Together between the two, I think we're going to reach over 750,000 fans coming through the ballpark this year, which is shattering a record. He's going to talk more about their operation here. But as we look at 2019, we have some great things that hopefully we can announce soon. But we have optimistic plans to reach 1.1 million fans in 2019, which would be about double of where we were first year. So the trend's going really well. Hopefully we can continue with that. And it's kind of fun looking back about a month ago when the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, talked about Nashville being a Major League market for future expansion. I'm not really sure where we stand on it, but I think it's fun that we're being recognized. One, everybody in this room doing some great things in the sports community, showing what sports teams can do in a city like Nashville, but also recognizing that baseball is alive and well in Nashville, and it's fun to be recognized at that major league level. Next on Monday coming up, my favorite event of the whole year, it's called Hope to Dream. We're inviting 50 kids that don't have beds to come, where we tell them that they're getting hot dogs and meet some players, and we surprise them right here in this room with giving them 50 beds of their own. I live in a world where everybody has beds, so I'm always surprised that the kids don't have beds, but those are the fun things. Doug will talk a little bit about that community impact, and that's a big piece of what we try to do is recognize we're a community asset and give back as much as we can. Again, eight games left on a big playoff push. We have a couple videos here, and then I'll call up Jeff Him, who is a big leaguer. He got an opportunity to call a couple games in the big leagues this year, but absolute blessing to us and a rock star, so we're excited to bring him up and have you hear a little bit from him after these videos. Smiles in that video is what we're all about. We try to create those smiles and memories when you come to the ballpark. So with that, I'd like to introduce up best in the business, Jeff Him, and certainly a great friend, and excited to have you get to know Jeff. Here he is.
Good morning, everybody. As Adam said, my name's Jeff Him. I'm the radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Sounds. In my 7th season, and just love this ballpark. Just seeing those videos gets me ready for tonight's game. This is a great ballpark. We've got great leadership with Adam and Doug and Brian Mayhood. I just very blessed to have the role with this organization that I do, and to see what's happened already in the first few years of this great ballpark. You know, you saw in those videos. We recognize with the Sounds there's a lot of different things that could bring somebody to our ballpark. Sometimes it's the baseball, sometimes it's not the baseball. We want to have a little bit of something for everybody at this ballpark and within this organization. My job, watching and calling every single game home and away with this team, part of the pleasure of the job is really getting to see how hard our players work hours before the game in their own careers, trying to get to the major leagues and to stay there. And I think one of the reasons we all love sports so much, regardless of the level, regardless of the sport, is the great unpredictability. Whether it's going into a season, you don't know exactly how your team is going to do, even though you think you might have some idea, whether it's a particular game or, in our case, a particular at-bat. I mean, when I sit behind the mic every night, I don't know if we'll throw a no-hitter. I don't know if we'll have somebody hit 4 home runs. We may not score a run. The great unpredictability of it is really a lot of fun. And Adam mentioned our winning streak in 15 games in a row. It really kind of came out of nowhere. We're the AAA affiliate of the Oakland A's, and what I like to remind people in telling sort of the story of our players and our team is that, and we're sort of in this world of fantasy sports and quick reaction on social media, and it's easy, the fan in us, to say, well, that guy's terrible, or, you know, why do they have him on the team, or how could he strike out in that situation? Well, what you really realize in the sports world is how incredibly talented all these guys are, whether you're the 53rd man on the Titans roster or the backup goalie to Pekka Rinne, in our case, the 25th man on our roster. Just getting to the AAA level, they've gotten past high school and college, and they've been drafted, and they've moved up to the minor leagues, and we're the second highest level of baseball that there is. Most of our guys on our roster have been to the major leagues at some point. And right now, the fun part is, while our team is surging and making this playoff push, our parent club, the A's, are in the same situation. They're currently in line for a major league playoff spot, a team that even they admitted a year ago was rebuilding and using a lot of these guys that we've seen come through Nashville to try to get to the big leagues and win, and they're doing it a lot sooner than anybody would have expected. And their roster right now is 25 guys. 16 of those played at some point for the Sounds somewhere along the way, including I think it's up to 8 guys who have been with us at some point just this year. 4 guys have gone up and made their major league debut this year. And so one example, I think, to tell sort of our story of the work that goes into these players, and we recognize that not every one of our fans coming to the game always knows everybody on the roster's name and knows their background. That's part of my job on the broadcast, is to tell that story. And I want to highlight with a couple of videos an outfielder by the name of Ramon Laureano. He was acquired last winter by the A's from Houston, missed the first 2 months of our season due to injury, suffered in spring training. He was at Double-A last year, had a good but not great season last year. He comes to Triple-A as soon as he gets healthy, and in about 60 games with us, we saw him throw out, he's an outfielder, we saw him throw out somebody trying to advance on the bases 13 times. The league leader had thrown out guys 14 times in about 30 more games than Ramon had played. So we saw it all the time. He's got this great arm. He's an electrifying player. Well, he had this 2-week stretch right at the start of what became our 15-game winning streak where he just caught fire. He was getting 3 hits seemingly every night and throwing guys out left and right. Sometimes in our world, we know when a guy is going to go to the big leagues because of the travel and the logistics and the information that the A's give us to get that guy wherever he needs to be. We may know it before the player knows it. So we had the advantage when we found out Ramon was going to get his first ever big league call-up after an injury and after an okay Double-A season and really only about 2.5 months with us. We knew it was coming. The A's wanted him to get a couple of at-bats in a game to be ready when he would go up and then have our manager pull him out of the game. So Doug's got the video of our manager right after the July 31 trade deadline having a little fun letting Ramon know he was going to go to the big leagues. Nobody in that dugout outside of Fran and our hitting coach who was in the background, Eric Martins, knew he was going to go up. So he leaves mid-game, goes upstairs, packs. He's on a flight the next day to go to the A's. Joining a team that's in a playoff race, having been with the Sounds, who are as hot as anybody in professional baseball during our 15-game winning streak. So he goes up, and he starts to do up there what he had done with us. His major league debut, he got the game-winning hit in the bottom of the 11th inning. That was his first major league hit. He gets mobbed. They rip off his jersey. They celebrate. 2 weeks later, and you may have seen this literally, and I don't know what constitutes views for going viral, but this went viral, as almost did the video of Fran telling him going up. So we had seen his great outfield arm, and then he makes this play in Anaheim where now the world, between shares and likes and retweets, has seen his outfield arm. Literally one of the most incredible throws you may ever see in a big league game. There's Ramon. Watch this replay, how far he threw this ball. I think it was 321 feet was the distance. chest high to the first baseman. And that's Nick Martini, who about 3 weeks earlier had gone up for the first time. So
I'm going to stop it.
he had been, that was recent. I'd say he'd been in the big leagues for about 2 weeks or so, maybe a week and a half. And so now he's sort of in the process of becoming more of a household name. And we know that our players aren't always household names when they're here. We try to tell their story while they're here, but then also celebrate their achievements in the big leagues. And for us, with the Sounds, it becomes as much about knowing the people as it is the team that they end up with. I mean, Joey Wendell, a guy from the last few years, is now an everyday player with Tampa Bay, works as hard as anybody I've ever seen. I'm not necessarily a Tampa Bay Rays fan, but I love following them because I love the success that Joey is having. So it's fun to see the work that these guys put in, how incredibly difficult it is just to get to AAA, then to get to the big leagues, and then try to stay there. So those are some of the fun stories that we get to tell with the Sounds, and Ramon's just one example of a guy getting to the big leagues, and hopefully he'll stay there. Like I said, most of our guys have been up at some point. The more difficult part is then staying there and becoming an established big leaguer. We have almost a transaction a day. Our roster changes so much because if a guy gets hurt up there, they need somebody maybe just temporarily. But hopefully Ramon and some of the other guys stay. And our playoff push here continues, and the A's make a nice playoff push as they're doing because almost all of their roster has been a Nashville Sound at some point in the last few years. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about our on-field success, and it goes so much with what's going on at this great ballpark off the field. So thank you. Doug? Yeah.
What I like about that play in that...
The umpire got the call right?
No, that he got it there in time, that he wouldn't have to have a close call.
That's right. That's right, yeah. It's always about the umpires, right, Chuck? Thanks, Chuck.
Good morning, everybody. Doug Scopel, Vice President of Operations for the Sounds, and thanks for all being here. Adam and Jeff have covered it all. Normally, we bring up the wonderful Destiny Whitmore to give a community update for us. This meeting was originally scheduled for a different month, so her and our crew and several of our players are actually out at Monroe Carroll Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt doing an appearance with some kids this morning. So she is not here. I'm not going to try to play Destiny's role with her passion and all the fun stuff that they do. We're going to get a PowerPoint sent to you guys via email so you can look through some of the slides that she would go through. But I do want to highlight a couple things she wanted me to talk about. As we talk about, we try to make as big of a commitment to the community back from our staff side and our player side as we can during the season. We're already over 2,600 hours given back to the community to close to 40 different organizations from different appearances that we do between those two groups. So, you know, you'll see it when you see the full thing, but it's all of us in town. That's one of our biggest things we can do is give back to the people that support us, and it's something that we're very proud and honored to have the chance to do given our positions. Adam kind of touched on the attendance numbers. We are between baseball, soccer, a couple beer festivals, college games. We're above 90 what I call full ballpark events in the venue this year. That's something that uses the playing field area as well as most of the stands. And Adam mentioned we're trying to go even more than that next year. So it's definitely been our busiest year to date. It's been really fun to do all these different events, and you'll hear from Court here in a minute about what soccer does out here. As we transition to that, you guys have been to baseball games. I think many of you have been to the soccer games here. You probably look and see, well, that field looks nothing like what it does on a Sounds game. Our video team put together a time-lapse video to kind of show that transition just real quick, real fast, so you can kind of see all the work that's done by groundskeepers and a lot of people to get that from baseball to soccer. So we're going to show you that real quick, and then Court will come up and give his presentation for soccer. But before we get there, I just want to make sure we didn't have any more Sounds-specific questions for any of us. Okay, let me show this.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Thank you to the board, and thank you to the audience here. Probably what they showed there was about a day and a half. The latter part of that would be mowing, rolling, lining the field, putting the soccer goals out, the corner flags, all the elements that we have for the event. So we've done that in as quickly as 48 hours on a few occasions. And sometimes longer, but typically we can do it pretty quick, and it's become very efficient. But as Doug said, my name is Court Jeske. I have the honor and pleasure of serving as the first CEO for Nashville Soccer Club, and I'd like to thank you guys for your time today and thank the audience for sticking around. I'm probably the last thing on the agenda before lunch, so I'll make this as expedient as possible for you. But just to clarify for everyone, Nashville Soccer Club and this vision that started over 2 years ago is our second division club that we have in town. It was started, and while we now have an MLS team that will start some years down the road, and all under the leadership and guidance of John Ingram, this is the club that plays here today, has arrived, and we're in the middle of our inaugural season. And by one that, by all accounts, I have to say, has gone phenomenally. And I've got a hard act to follow with the Titans putting 55,000 in the building and the Sounds winning 15 games in a row. But I would say that thanks to the community, the inaugural season for professional soccer at this level, at this elite professional level, has gone tremendous. And that's a testament to the support that you guys have given, the community has given, and most importantly, the fans have given. So just wanted to highlight a few different things for you as it relates to our inaugural season here by the numbers. One, we're averaging 10,500 fans per match versus game. So we say match to use the international vernacular. That is the third highest in 33 other USL clubs. That includes markets like Cincinnati and Tampa and Phoenix and Sacramento, to name a few. The market has really latched on. Now, we've achieved that number by not only having events at First Tennessee Park here, but also 2 events at Nissan Stadium with our partners, the Titans. And so I'd like to certainly say thank you to the Titans for their hosting of 2 epic games. That first slide I showed was our inaugural season game that we had against Pittsburgh, where we had 19,000 people, which was the largest attended professional soccer game in North America that weekend, MLS, USL, or otherwise. The largest game in North America was right here, and that's thanks to the support of this group. So the fans are coming out to support the team. We've been fortunate that through the community's support and this 1.5 long process, we've been able to set a record. We've sold 6,200 season tickets. That is more than any other USL club has ever done. And for those of you that don't maybe not know the soccer landscape or history, there's been a lot of very successful USL clubs that have moved up to MLS, the likes of Portland, Seattle, Orlando, some major markets that have gone before us, that they have not seen this kind of success in their early years. So we are certainly on a trajectory that we should all appreciate. Fans are following us on social media. Our fan is a 12 to 35-year-old multicultural millennial. That is our target audience, and that is who you see when you come out to our games. It's a different audience than you'll see at a lot of other sporting events, but that's something that we believe is incumbent on us as having a very international sport in the sport of soccer, and making sure that we represent the international communities that are here in Nashville and provide an outlet in the sport for them. Hopefully you're seeing our Nashville Soccer Club crest a little bit more around town. Put a lot of thought and energy into that crest and what it means, and we're very civic-minded by choosing blue and gold. It's not the color of the Predators. That's not why we chose it, but because of the Metro Council's flag and the Metro government's flag having blue and gold. So we'll continue to keep Nashville at the center of all that we do. The other thing we've been able to do is generate some nationwide and also international notoriety for the city. We were chosen by the United Soccer Leagues, our second division that we play in, for the first nationally televised game of the year on their Game of the Week with ESPN. Our games are shown on ESPN Plus throughout the world, and then also on YouTube. Our international match versus Atlanta in February had 300,000 viewers, 50,000 which were outside of the United States. So you can tell that the things we're doing here at First Tennessee Park and Nissan Stadium are generating interest not only here in Nashville, but go further afield to consumers, to fans of the sport. Our corporate partners in our community, again, I think this speaks to the kind of club that we're trying to build and the professional soccer ethos that we want to have. What you'll see up here is a mix of multinational corporations and global brands that you all recognize. And then you also see some stores and local shops that I hope you recognize as well. All of them play an important role in building this club and making sure that we are Nashville to the core. One quick story I'd like to tell is when we were going about our first year, and it was 2016, we had two offers on the table. We had one from Honda, and we had one from Nissan to be the first advertising partner on our jersey. In soccer, as you guys know, globally, a very key piece of exposure is that sponsor on the jersey. Please don't tell my ownership, but the Honda offer was slightly more. But as we said and talked about it, it was a very easy decision. That didn't feel right. With the commitment that Nissan has made to this area and this region, we wanted to make that same commitment to Nissan. And we want to make sure this team is easy for people to root for locally as we put down roots and build soccer here in North America and in Nashville and Middle Tennessee. So I encourage everyone, please support those partners where you can, and support anyone in the audience to do so as well. Lastly, I touched on our media partners. A special thank you to the folks at Sinclair and Fox. All of our games are broadcast on My30, live in HD. And again, we wanted to do that because My30, as you all know, is an over-the-air, or call it terrestrial station, that does not cost. So anyone that has a $10 pair of Rabbit Ears TV can watch our games. And we wanted to make sure that every community in Nashville, regardless of socioeconomic background, would have the ability to watch our games and be a part of Nashville Soccer Club in this inaugural year and very special year. The last thing, it kind of brings it full circle, and then certainly I can take any questions. Again, I tell people often that I've got an extremely easy job. It's because our ownership group has given me the guidance that with professional soccer, we need to do something great for Nashville and do something great for the sport of soccer. So that is what we set out and we try to do every day. We've got now 60 full-time employees between our players and our front office that are building professional soccer in Nashville every day. We're just off of Rundle Avenue and I-40. And one of the cool things that we did last year was we worked together with some of the organizations in Nashville and identified the 6 most commonly spoken languages that were not English in Middle Tennessee. Because we want to make sure that whether you're Kurdish or Somali, Mexican, Guatemalan, you understand that this club is for you and that you can put your fingerprints on this very special time where a club is being born. And so you see some of them up here. These are more than the 6 that we represented, but we have bumper stickers that we give away for free around town with our town, our club, which is our trademarked motto, meaning everything that we do has to be true to Nashville. And everything that we do has to be true to our club and the foundings of this amateur now turned professional movement that thanks to all the people in this room and the people on this board have committed and allowed us to play our games here and at Nissan to provide a platform for fans to root this team on and believe in the next great sports franchise here in Nashville. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Court? Thank you for your, do you have some? No. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You always end with a good video because it can tell the story better than I. So similar to the sounds, we could have taken the video of your folks, but we're happy to partner with Vanderbilt Children's Hospital and send a lot of our players over to the hospital from time to time. And I think one of the interesting things when we were sitting down and working with the people at the hospital about who do we visit and what kids, we said, let's not forget the international children that are here, right? They have a lot of people that come from all over the world to seek care. And with all due respect, their number one sport, second sport, and third sport is probably going to be soccer, soccer, and soccer in that order. And so our players can speak their language. We have 12 players from further countries abroad. We have, I should say that of our 26 players, we have 12 countries represented. And so there's a lot of different languages spoken around the club that we can also share with the children at the hospital. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
We see about 1,500 children a day, and we're so honored to have amazing community partners like the Nashville Soccer Club and just the community that rallies around us to make us one of the best. We see children from all over the world, so we are adding 4 new floors so we can better serve our community and see even more children every day and just help make the lives of our patients and families better.
Hospital here over at Vanderbilt. We had to spend some time with some of the kids. They came down here to the Seacrest Studios. We played some games, did some interviews. Taylor got schooled on his pizza choices. So the kids really gave it to him. But it was a great time for us to be here and spend some quality time with kids.
Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. We appreciate the videos and everyone's time today. It's been a productive meeting, as always, and our next one will be on September 20th at Bridgestone Arena. And if there is no other business, we would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay, we are adjourned. See you guys next week.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.